the distinct privilege, honor, and enjoyment of bringing out our next guest. I'm sure he wouldn't allow us to describe him as such, but for me, he's an international treasure and just a beloved member of the original series cast, a prolific writer and talent, and a lovely guy. It's my great honor to welcome Walter Koenig, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a very nice welcome for Walter Koenig.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. 50 freaking years.
51, technically.
Well, technically 51. For me, it's 50. This is my 50th year. So I'm celebrating my own 50th anniversary by being at Creation Convention. And I've done more Creation Conventions than any other, and these gentlemen have been so generous as to have me back most years, and I always have a good time. First of all, I know at a Creation Convention, as opposed to a comic book convention, people are going to know who I am. You know, I go to comic book conventions.
Does it actually happen to you? Do you have to go to those shows and they don't know you?
No, they don't know me. They're there for the anime. They're there for the games. The people behind the tables alongside me are 21 years old. I don't even know what 21 years old means anymore. But I go to Creation and everybody says, "Hi, Walter," which makes me feel very good. So, hey! So, do we have any questions that we can start with?
Technically, I have some questions for you, and then they get to do the questions. But that's okay. You can structure it any way you want. Yeah, I got just a couple things for you.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, Walter and I are celebrating our 38th year together. 38. Walter was the first Star Trek actor that we ever had in a show back in 1979. It was in New York City. I think it was at the Commodore Hotel, which has long since been raised and became the Grand Hyatt in Manhattan. And you were always good to us, Walter, always. Throughout the years, a gentleman, a sweet guy who, we were kids back in those days. We really literally were kids.
Yeah.
You know, Gary and I started, we were 14 years old, I think. I mean, it's crazy. So that would mean maybe we were 20 or something like that then. But yeah, you're always very gracious to us. But I wanted to just ask you about, first of all, about Star Trek conventions. I mean, you've been going to Star Trek conventions for years and years and years. Have you, other than the changes in the way the events themselves are produced, I mean, we're a lot more polished than we used to be, but how about the people and the audiences? Have you witnessed a change, an evolution in the audiences over that time?
It's a good question. My first instinct is to say no, they haven't changed, because the people who do approach me, with whom I have conversation, are just as warm and generous and reinforcing as they were all those years ago. So in that regard, the folks are the same, and that's what really makes me continue to go out, because I feel like I'm among family, and it's a terrific feeling. However, and there is a big however, with the advent of these new Star Trek features, which I thoroughly enjoy, we have now recruited another source of fandom, those are fans who are not necessarily feel a kinship and a sense of compassion for what we were saying, the things that Gene Roddenberry was instilling in his stories. But they're there for the flash and filigree. They're there for the CGI and the spectacle of it all. And these are the same folks that go to the Marvel comic movies and the DC movies, and the guy, the bald guy who's always in a car racing. What's his name?
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, him. They're there, I think, primarily for that. They want to see all the spectacle. And these folks, JJ and Paramount, they've done it extremely well. But they don't bring the same sensibility. They're not as devoted to story and what we're trying to say in our best movies. We didn't try to say it in all of them, but in the best movies, as they are in the pyrotechnics. And as a consequence, and I know that not because of anything that they say to me personally, but it's the comments that I get, and I know the other actors get in the media. You know, they're not full of the same. I mean, we still have those devoted fans. We still have those folks who really felt that what Gene was trying to say, and all of his, you know, in all of the incarnations of Star Trek, was that there was going to be a better world ahead, and there would be a time when we'd all be able to work together in harmony and love, and that it's something that we should all strive for. These folks are the ones I'm referring to. I don't know what percentage of the audience it is. I think it's probably a pretty large percentage because the movies are making so much money. But they're more into the shoot 'em up, you know, explosion, wow, look at those spaceships kind of thing, which is fine. You know, I don't denigrate them for that being their area of interest. But it does change the complexion of our audience to some degree. So now I get insulting mail. Never got insulting mail before. But that's also because occasionally I talk about, and I'm not going to do it today because you guys paid to hear about Star Trek. You didn't hear to pay about how I feel about Mr. Can't get that damn name out.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that clash between the sort of visceral rush that one side of the brain gets from lavish spectacle, lavish production, Michael Bay, Transformers. I mean, I love that stuff. At the same time, I feel that a lot of the strong scripting and characterization and character arc has been lost to the generation. And in that sense, we agree and sympathize with the point that something is gained in terms of production, but something is definitely lost in terms of character development. And you know this as well as anybody because you're a writer. I mean, you got the soul of a writer. And you, I think, told me about your frustrations as a writer throughout your career as well. But we're going to talk about Star Trek, and I'd love to, because a lot of these people, or some of them are new, and would love to hear some stories about Gene Roddenberry, the great bird of the galaxy. I mean, come on, you were with him for years and years and years, so tell us about Gene.
Well,
where do you begin?
Gene, you know, was, I had actually worked for Gene before Star Trek. I had worked on a series called The Lieutenant, and he was the creator of that show. And And curiously, it's all, things work in such strange ways. I stopped trying to put logic to how events evolve. I played, in that show, it was a guest starring role, and I played the part of a lieutenant in the, I think it was the Marines, who, or I wanted to go to officers training school. That's what it was, and they wouldn't allow me because my mother, my character's mother, was a communist, and it was ripped out of the headlines, so to speak. There was a story at the time where that was indeed the prohibition that prevented this young man from going to OTS. We of course, it was called Mother Enemy, and we called it Kami Mami, you know.
So how involved was Roddenberry on the lieutenant? I mean, was he on the set every day?
No, I don't think so. The director was one of the directors that he used on Star Trek later on. Gary Lockwood, you know, who did one of the original episodes, was the lead on the show. So there was that connection. And but when I went in to read, the only story I really have is when I went in to read. I was told, how many of you have seen me before at conventions? Okay, this is your chance to take out your pillow and take a little sleep.
Quite a few of them have not. A lot of them have not.
Because you've heard their story. In any case, I was called in by Joe D'Augusta, who was a friend of mine, and he was the casting director. And I was given the pages to read in advance of going in and actually auditioning, and it was a very intense scene. Captain, the ship is about to blow up. What are we going to do? You know, and young guy, and he's scared, and he's intense, and he wants to carry out his duties, but he realizes there is considerable jeopardy. So I'm sitting in the outer office, and then they call me into the inner office, and Gene Roddenberry is there, and Gene Kuhn is there, and Joe Pevney, who is a director, one of the alternating directors in the second season, who, business is so weird, I had done a lead role, a guest starring role in an Alfred Hitchcock hour for, and so he was there. The only person who didn't know my work in the room was Gene Kuhn. So in any case, I came in, and I gave the most cursory of greetings because I was trying to remain totally involved in the circumstances of the scene and portray it as believably as I could, credibly as I could. So I read it the way I just showed you. Captain, the ship is about to blow up. What are we going to do? And there was silence in the room. And I thought, my God, I have knocked these people's, I've torn the tongues out of their mouths. They're so amazed and impressed by the profundity and depth of care. Oh, God, I'm getting tired. And that, of course, wasn't the case at all. They didn't like what I did. They said to me, yeah, that was okay, but could you make it funny? Make it funny? I'm an actor of principle. I went to drama school for 2 years. I won't pervert my art. I won't distort the meaning of the lines. I will not prostitute my talent so that for something that I don't believe in. So I sighed a moment and then read it again. Captain, guess what? The ship is about to blow up. They loved it. That's what they wanted. not that they were ever going to use anything like that. They wanted to know that I had some comedic sense, and that if and when they gave Chekhov funny lines, he'd be able to deliver them. So that's when I went with the makeup man, Fred Phillips. We went to Max Factor in Hollywood, big store for women's hair pieces, women's hair, what? Wigs, women's wigs. And we brought back about 5 or 6 wigs. And now I did the same role in a red wig, and a blonde wig, and a brunette wig. And then after I took off the wigs, they put on the wigs, which was quite interesting, I thought. And they were prancing around in the wigs. And I thought, well, if I don't get this part, I have a good story to tell. But yeah, that was.
You were very cute in your Davy Jones haircut. He was cute, right? It's awesome.
As a matter of fact, somebody recently gave me a picture which shows me and Davy Jones next to each other. And
that's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
And
We did a music video that compared you with Davy Jones. We actually did a video to that because it was pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
You were the Davy Jones of Star Trek. And that's, by the way, that is a loving compliment. It's in no way an insult. It was fantastic. Listen, we got to get very shortly to questions from the audience, but before we do, I have very fond remembrances of the Boys of Autumn. And the Boys of Autumn, I want to talk just a little bit about that. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers or knows or was aware of it, but Walter and a very beloved guy, Mark Leonard, toured together doing a wonderful, essentially two-man play called The Boys of Autumn. And it was amazing and charming. I had a chance to see it at least a couple of times. I just wanted for a couple of minutes to talk about you and the stage, because I'm not really too familiar with any other stuff that you did on stage, although if you remind me, I might remember. But I definitely saw Boys of Autumn a couple of times, and I just loved you guys. So I'd love you to talk about that, your feelings about the stage, and a little bit about Mark Leonard, please, and then we'll take it out to the audience.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was really a wonderful experience. It was indeed a two-character play about Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer meeting again 40 years later. Mark played Huck, and I played Tom, and we come to this meeting with dark secrets that we are reluctant to reveal about our lives in the subsequent years and the years that have transpired since then. And I'm at this juncture, I'm an ex-vaudeville performer. When I dance and I sing, and Huck married and lost his wife to cancer. And in fact, the two secrets that we only reveal as we get closer and closer in the story, and reestablish our relationship, is that he was involved in a mercy killing because his wife was in such pain that he ended up assisting her in ending the pain. And I never got over Becky. Wasn't that her name? Yeah, I never. And you can read between the lines there. I never got over this little girl, and as a consequence, there was some question about how I dealt with younger people. The play never says that I was a reprobate and a pedophile, but it suggests that I had inclinations in that area. So it was a dramatic play. It was funny. It had a considerable amount of depth. We were well received wherever we took it. We actually took it to a few conventions. We played it in the 2,000-seat theater in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was a really wonderful time for me. I love the theater. I've done a couple of dozen plays, and I actually did a couple of others with Mark. We did a one-act play called Actors, and we did another play. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, this is my one pitch, and then we'll go on to the questions you have. There's a small theater company in Los Angeles called Theater of Note, and they're located on Cahuenga Boulevard between Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard. They've been there for about 25 years. They do mostly original stuff, edgy stuff, an extremely talented group. My wife is a member of the company and has been for years, and they're going to do. And there's a tradition among small theaters in LA to do what they call like a midnight show, and it's different than the regular run of theater that they have. It's a show that's very specifically for a midnight audience, and they do crazy things. I belong to another theater where I adapted 2 episodes of Twilight Zone to the stage, and we did that as part of a midnight run. Well, we're doing another group of plays, 7 directors, about 21, 22 different actors, and in 7 short pieces, and I'm directing one of them, and it's going to, and it's very strange and abstract and fun. I hope it'll be fun.
What is the theater company name again?
It's called Theater of Note. Theater
of Note, and is there a website we can go to, or?
I think if you look up Theater of Note,
just Google search Theater of Note.
Yeah, and it'll be the last weekend in August and the first 3 weekends in September, Friday and Saturday nights, 10 o'clock at night. So if you in town, if you've come from there or you're going to be in town, look it up. I think you'll have a good time. Okay, having said that.
All right,
yes.
Thank you. We've got him to the left of the stage and to the right of the stage.
Hi Walter, my name's Angela, I'm from Australia. I just wanted to firstly say thank you. My dad was a Russian immigrant, he's passed on. And seeing you on television representing a Russian person just gave him hope, so thank you for that. And my question really is what you guys referred to earlier on about the difference between the new generation and what they want from television and from online, the fast twitching, quick camera cuts, not much character development, how you think the Discovery is going to be able to transfer the needs of the new generation with the cerebral and ethereal sort of feel of the old Star Trek series and the old Star Trek movies, which were more about character development and people getting on with each other. That sort of disparity I think will be interesting, and I'd just like your opinion.
My love, I'll be 81 in September. I don't hear as well as I used to. Can we say it again?
My accent doesn't help either.
Okay, if you don't hold it too close to your face, it'll be better, I think.
It was really just to ask your opinion on how you think the new series of Star Trek Discovery will be able to mix the old concept of Star Trek, which was very character-based and story-based, with the new demands of the new generation of people who want things that are very fast and quick cuts and not a lot of character development. How do you think they'll be able to marry those two concepts?
Now you're talking about the CBS series. Yeah. Well, I think they're well aware of what they can bring that the motion pictures can't, and that is character, in greater degree, and relationships and story. The movies that have been made, 3 movies, are all really great spectacles, as I said, and great, very entertaining. But these folks have got to know what made the original Star Trek series and those that followed it so appealing. And that was they could identify with the characters. They had a sense there was a rapport and a sense of understanding in terms of what we were doing, what we were trying to say. And I'm sure with all of the talent that they have, that they're going to bring to this new series the best of all, quote the pun, all possible worlds. The effects will be, of course, much better than what we were able to achieve, because we just didn't know how. And the stories should certainly be more involving than I think, as good as the movies have been, but I think they'll be more involving and more personal. Personal is perhaps the word I'm looking for. The way the best of our episodes were on Star Trek. I hope that answers the question.
And we'll come over here. I think we can count on. It takes you a while to get there. I think we can count on Discovery being a remarkable piece of work. I mean, they have an incredible brain trust there of writers, storytellers, and the state-of-the-art production.
Okay.
Hey, Walter, it's a pleasure to be here. I grew up watching the movies, so it's a pleasure. Thank you. I just wanted to ask you, where would you like to have seen your character Chekhov go that they didn't go with your character?
Where would I want Chekhov to go?
Yeah, what direction would you like to see them go with your character that they did not go?
Oh, that's a good question, and that's why I made Renegade's Requiem, because I wanted to bring some, you know, it sounds, if somebody told me that they were playing the same character for 50 years, I'd say that's pretty pathetic. You know, is that all you can do? I mean, Edwin, who? Yes, Wilkes Booth, what's his first name? John. His brother, Edwin Booth, played the same Shakespeare role for like 35 years. And I mean, that's Shakespeare after all, and that's going to be a challenge every night. And so I'm sure there's some intrinsic appeal in doing that. But playing Chekhov for 50 years, but my point is that I always felt that I never got to really fulfill this character's potential. Warpvector 3, Warpvector 3. You know, how many times can you say it? So I've been looking. I've been looking. Like, was it Diogenes who was looking for a man with an honest face? I've been looking for a script where Chekhov is dimensionalized, where we get to know who he was and who he is and how he thinks, you know, the introspective part of the character, the conflict, not simply the exposition, the expository part. And so when people brought opportunities you know, to me about playing Chekhov, a couple times I said no because it didn't add anything. A couple times I said, well, yeah, I can flesh it out a little more by doing this. I can make it more real. It's a curious thing when you receive so much approval and acclaim and approbation for so little. You know, for having done so little, you feel that you have a responsibility to somehow achieve that acclaim by creating a character that is memorable on his own right, and not simply because it was one of a group of 7 in a TV series which was so popular. So again and again, well, 3 times maybe, I've taken on the role hoping to be able to make it more personal, more profound, and just more real. And this last time, although we can't call it Star Trek anymore, we call it Renegade Requiem, it is where I wanted Chekhov to be, and I said I would do it on the condition that that it was a send-off, it was a farewell, that he wasn't be around anymore. Part of my feeling was I was so angry. I was really angry, guys, about the way they treated Captain Kirk in the Next Generations movie. You know, Bill and I don't speak, but Captain Kirk is a revered, almost mythic character, and you don't just say, "Oh, he dies on a bridge," and you walk away from it. It had to be something more than that. And so I told him that I would do this role if in fact we had something substantial. We had a very theatrical, touching ending, and I think we do. So.
Walter, can I ask you, are you sure that you can be objective about your own role and performance? We're outside of you, and when we look back with admiration at the Chekhov character, we don't see the character maybe as superficially as in terms of your performance. We loved you. So it's kind of hard for you to be objective. While I respect it's your character and your role, from our point of view, he's a beloved character.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Okay, back over there, please.
Mr. Kane, earlier you were talking about Joe Pevney, the director. I thought he was a great director. He did some of Trek's finest episodes of the original series. Unfortunately, he left the show midway through the second season. The reason was that he didn't care much for the atmosphere on the set anymore. It's like certain actors would just say, my character wouldn't do this, or my character wouldn't react like that, or something like that. You knew Joe Pevney. Is he the type that you would trust, with validity about statements like that? Or was he the type to maybe overreact or overstate the case?
Well, that's an interesting question in general. When I worked with Joe Pevney on the Hitchcock Hour, I was playing opposite James Caan, who I went to school with, and it was a really substantial role that I had. I was the bad guy, he was the good guy, and I had a great time. Joe Pevney was terrific. He was extremely reinforcing. He saw great things in my future. It was too embarrassing to repeat. And but I really had a good time with him. And when we did Star Trek in that second season, it was Joe Pevney and Mark Daniels were our directors. And Joe was great. He was the way he was when we did the Hitchcock. Mark Daniels, it seemed like he had a very sour disposition to me. I don't think anybody else felt that way, so evidently I was misinterpreting his behavior. Whether Joe would leave under those circumstances that you're discussing, it's hard to say. I mean, we all have a breaking point. We all have a point where we feel if we're being not respected or demeaned, and as a director, it's the actor's responsibility to try to work with them, him, her, as much as possible, and take the direction. Actors on series who've done them for years own those characters pretty much, and they have been playing them and for a long time, and they believe they know how a character would respond. Certainly, Leonard felt that way. Leonard felt he understood Spock better than anybody else, and I'm sure he did. And Bill felt that way. I think even DeForest once in a while would say, McCoy wouldn't say that line or something like that. I don't think that in itself is enough to make a mature professional director quit. it might have been, if indeed that is the case, and I don't know that, it must have been something pretty explosive that happened behind closed doors. And of course, Mark Daniels was not that grouch that I thought he was. That's just his presentation. He was actually a pretty good guy, I guess. So I mean, I think I've heard something of that nature too. I just find it hard to believe that that in itself would be the reason. I think.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Koenig, my wife and I have been coming to these conventions for years, and we actually schedule our whole convention schedule around your panels. You have the best panels and the best stories, so thank you for that. I just wanted to say that it's a major topic. I was born in '86, my wife was born in '87. We fell in love with Star Trek because of watching your performances on VHS and syndication. What has come after the original series is great, but Star Trek, no matter what it becomes in the future, will always be that crew back there. The young people that appreciate your performances and your series and what you made the future are out there, and we just want to say we hear you, we love what you did, and your crew are the Titans. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the other cast members who weren't on the stage with me, I thank you. I thank you for them. Yes.
Hello, Walter. I think you remember me. I used to volunteer at conventions, retired from about 15 years ago. My name is Albert, and I helped you many a time on stage and behind the stage and other places. Don't forget anything that a fan gives you. I can't help you find it anymore. I used to help him find things that fans would give him, and he'd leave it on stage and wonder, now where did I leave it?
Talking about the nuclear weapons?
What was that? I can't help you find it anymore. Remember.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hi, Walter. My name's Meredith. I'm from Florida. And one of my favorite things about how the series have evolved over the years is seeing how the meaning of team, the meaning of crew has evolved. And it seems to kind of sometimes reflect what's going on in the world and culturally at the time. So my question for you is, moving forward, are there any specific themes that you want to see explored more with regards to the crew and character development as we move forward with Discovery and with the movies in the Kelvin timeline?
I would like to see a theme where the rule of law is consistent, that there's integrity that must be abided by and be the force that governs the major decisions that are made in a country. And that democracy prevails and in all its beauty, and as so put forth by our forefathers in the Constitution.
Sit down, John.
Hello, my name is Anne from Germany, and my question is, I noticed that you are left-handed, and so I wanted to know, how do you decide how you play your character, if you play your character right-handed or left-handed? For example, Bester, you play right-handed, and with Chekhov, you sometimes play left and sometimes with the right hand, so that's my question.
I'm not getting it. I'm
Wow.
sorry. Not,
Again?
not so close. A little bit further away.
Further away?
Yeah.
So, yeah, my question
No,
is...
no, hold on.
My question is, I noticed that you are left-handed. Yes. And how do you decide if you play your character with the right-handed or left-handed? Because, for example, Bester you play with the right-handed, and Chekhov sometimes with the left and sometimes.
She's saying
with the right.
Bester is right-handed, Chekhov is left-handed, or sometimes he's right-handed.
I got it. How do I decide that? Well, I'm left-handed. I do everything left-handed. All the good things I do left-handed.
It's nice to know we still do good things left-handed throughout our life.
But it was a character. It was a character choice to make Bester right-handed, and
You literally make a choice to make him right-handed? I mean, is that
Yes.
an actual process?
I froze his left hand, and the reason I did that is I know that Bester was in a position of command, and he was an adversary, a worthy adversary to Bruce Boxleitner and Jerry and all the other people on the space station, and very frankly, very personally, I wanted to feel that I was as in command and as powerful as they were. The best adversaries are the ones that are the strongest. It's like the class example is Khan and Kirk. You know, that worked so well because Khan was such a formidable presence. Well, I don't have that presence. I don't have that physical presence. And by the way, that was Ricardo Montalban's chest. So I'm standing, and we're having a reading of Babylon 5. I'm looking at these two guys. They're 6'2", and growing up being short, you always that's in my case it was always part of my consciousness, and I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to feel strong. And I felt that if he had a handicap and had achieved Bester and achieved what he had achieved and been in a position of command, then he's got to be somebody who is formidable and somebody who has a strong sense of self-image. And I talked myself into being that person, and that made it easy for me to confront those guys and not feel that I was at any disadvantage. I had overcome my disability and achieved this sense of command.
But in terms of you being an actor, in other words, you disabled your strong hand in order to help drive internally your ability to work with your right hand, which gave you a sense of conquest over your own physical self, and therefore became and outwardly extended as a sense of power.
Why am I talking? You're doing it so much better.
Trying to understand it.
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I had in mind. A little convoluted maybe, but that's what I had in mind.
Got it. Okay.
Hi, I'm from St. Louis. I've been watching you my whole life, and I love you, but what do you think of Anton playing you in the new movies? Sadly, we lost him, but...
I met Anton Yeltsin. I met him on the set. I was invited to the set by JJ, and I met him on the set. He actually came in. He wasn't working that day, but he came in, and we sat and we talked for a couple of hours I found him to be an extremely personable, charming, very bright young man, and we all knew how talented he was. We saw the range of his talent. It's so tragic, and it's been very painful. Just starting his life ahead of him. As far as how I felt, that's interesting, and there's more to it than you might initially think. Because when I went to the premiere, I didn't know how I was going to react. One, to Yeltsin's playing Chekhov, and two, to the movie itself. You know, to a new Star Trek with new cast members playing the characters that we had played. I must pat myself on the back because I suspected that I was going to be a bit on the disapproving side, and maybe a little bitter, maybe a little envious. I didn't have any of those feelings. I was much more mature than I thought I was. I loved it. I loved watching them. It had nothing to do with me. It was, you know, I wasn't, how can I be making a comparison with somebody who was 50 some odd years younger than I am? And, you know, it was a different man with a different interpretation. So I delighted in the whole film, and I thought the young Chekhov was great. I don't think he needed to have. I don't think he made the choice to respect my somewhat faulty dialect, but I don't think he needed to do that. He could have made it more authentic. I didn't do it. I didn't do it purposely not to be authentic. I did it the best as I could. But if he could do it better, and God knows he was born in Russia, and his parents were very obviously Russian, then he could have done it his own way. But that was really very, very nice. And my only other moment with him was after the film was over, and we were all there's a big party in a parking lot a few blocks away, and everybody's being crowded on. You know, all the actors in the film. There's journalists, photographers, and he has this sizable crowd of people. And he sees me walking by in the periphery, and he yells out, "Walter, I have my own action figure." I thought that was great. Yeah, it's very, very painful, very painful. And I got off the plane from Texas, and there was these photographers and reporters, and I just found it despicable. I just found it despicable that at this moment they want a reaction. And it's not only them, it's the people who crave that reaction. They want to hear something about somebody who's passed away. They want to hear something that they can, I don't know, feel better about themselves maybe by hearing somebody else's grief and hearing about somebody who has passed away. So I told them they were all a bunch of so they were a bunch of fucking vampires.
Hi. I was wondering if you were acting as a child and if your parents encouraged it, or did you start later in your teenage years, or like what was your very earliest experience?
You know, that's interesting because I don't think I've ever been asked that before. I didn't act professionally as a child. I did go to I don't know if I told you, my father was very much a communist, and I did go to an adult camp, a camp for intellectuals. Everybody had a pipe, you know. And they put on an original play about the atomic bomb. What can I tell you? These kind of folks. And I was the only kid. I was the only kid there in the camp. And they gave me a part in the play. And the part, I don't know if I can get through this. I was 8 years old. I may not remember it entirely. But it was a professor. And he says, the Hans Strassmann experiment with uranium-235 indicates that neutrons were also used during the fission process. And the trigger to set off the atomic breakdown consisted of a bit of uranium and a pinch of U-235. Pour these ingredients in a wooden bowl, stir vigorously, place in oven, bake violently at a temperature 350 electron volts per split uranium atom.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
That was.
Did you say your father was a communist?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we were investigated by the FBI.
Wow, so there's that whole thing, right?
Oh yeah. And you know, in the late 40s, early 50s, we had McCarthyism, and Joe McCarthy. If you don't know that part of American history, you should. You should look it up. And House Un-American Activities Committee, but you know, there are communists and there are communists. My dad wasn't, you know, slipping atomic secrets, you know, to the Soviets. He just believed that there was a society and a way of dealing with each other that could be more respectful of the human condition. And so he worked to get certain people, elected into government positions. I mean, didn't work underground. He just sent out posters and all that kind of stuff.
If that communist identification had transferred onto you, that would have been very difficult in terms of your acting career, right? Could have.
Well, you know, in my family, activism skipped a generation. Because I had seen the notes that were left in our mailbox, they were very harassing notes. At the age of 10 and 11, being very impressionable, the whole thing spooked me a lot. And my old man felt that we were probably going to be put in camps, particularly when Joe McCarthy was out finding communists under every fig leaf. So I did not participate, other than being kind of a knee-jerk liberal, which meant that I voted for Democrats down the line, whether I knew what they stood for or not. And I don't regret that, because I think in most cases it was a better choice, regardless of whether I knew what I was talking about. My son was an activist, very much so. He was an environmentalist. He chained himself to trees. He got arrested in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, standing in front of the Chinese float with a big sign. We'd gone to Burma, the two of us, to make the world better, make the world more aware of the atrocities that were taking place there. But that was later in my life. I didn't do those things earlier. He was doing them, you know, as a 21, 22-year-old. So I don't remember what the question was.
Strange twist of fate, though, that you play a Russian.
I know. And you know, it's absolutely heartbreaking to me that my old man never got to see me do it, because he would have loved it. And whatever misgivings he had about me, about my future and my ability to earn a living or whatever, I think that would have really tickled him if he had gotten to see that.
I think we've got time for maybe one more question.
Hi, I want to say, you know, your character is not that we love you just because of your character. You're just such a warm and loving individual, and you give so much love to your fans. So I want to say that's one of the biggest reasons why we love you is because of who you are, not necessarily your character. You're an amazing human being.
That's very kind.
So that being said,
I thank you.
so I just need to know, you are 81, you have a sharp mind, you are running around here. I want to know, what is your secret? Are you taking some vitamins? Is it alkaline water? Like, I want to be like you at 81, so what is your secret? I need to know.
Oh, you're either going to laugh or you're going to boo. I don't know. I have a copy of Deep Throat that I watch every night.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, Walter Koenig!